It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to educating, entertaining, and discussion of firearms, legislation, and your Second Amendment rights. Presented in part by the Illinois State Rifle Association, Illinois Gun Works, Safer USA, and Chuck's Gun Shop. Here's your host, firearm instructor, educator, and enthusiastic Second Amendment proponent, David Lombardo.
Way to start. And welcome to On Target Radio, Chicago's voice for the Second Amendment. I'm David Lombardo, and my co-host, Tim Dalan, sitting across the desk here. Say hi, Timothy.
Hi, Timothy.
There you go.
And I'm standing up. I'm not sitting. Nobody will give me a chair.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a low-budget show.
Can I have any money? Can you pay me to get a chair?
Go away. You bother me. You don't even pay attention to our briefings here. You know. Anyway, we will be here every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Well, I will be here every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Mr. Dalan is somewhat questionable. Talking about shooting sports, personal protection, hunting, and all things Second Amendment. You will also have the opportunity to call in and talk to our guests. And Tim, speaking of guests, for the fourth week in a row.
You're going to do it again?
I am going to do it again. We would like to invite Chicago's Mayor, Rahm Emanuel, to come and discuss his views on gun control. And, Mr. Mayor, we respect your rights and we respect your position, but we'd like to chat with you about it. I don't think that's unfair. I really don't.
Well, I don't think so either. Hopefully he's listening tonight.
You know what?
His phone might be broken. His phone might be out of service. He can't call.
Or we may have dropped him like we have in the past.
Right.
But I think, he's probably listening by now. I'm sure it's gotten to him.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. I got to say something. I don't know. I know you don't read the paper, okay? In fact, I question whether or not you can read. But every day this week, to the best of my recollection, every day this week, there has been a report of some mayhem or murder in the city of Chicago. I mean, it is an ongoing thing. And you know what? I don't care what the ordinances say. I don't care what the laws say. I think if I lived in the city of Chicago, particularly in those areas, I think I'd have a gun. I don't care what they say. I really do. I'd like to hear what our own audience has to say about that. We will take your calls at 312-642-5600. If you have an opinion about whether or not you have the right to defend yourself in your own home, 312-642-5600. But tonight we're going to be discussing gun laws. And here in the studio, we have Don Moran, president of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and Glenn Nixon, who is a sergeant with the Bourbonnais Police Department and a candidate for Illinois State Rep in the 79th District. Gentlemen.
Hi, David. Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you both here. And in a little while, Victor Quilici, who is the general counsel for the Illinois State Rifle Association, will be joining us by phone. Vic got a little ill today, and so he couldn't make it in, but he promises that he will survive long enough to call. So hopefully we'll get him. So we're going to be talking about gun laws. And Don?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about my hypothesis that if I lived in the city of Chicago, given what's been going on, I'd have a gun, I don't care what?
Well, I think if you lived in a dangerous situation, you should, you have a human right to defend yourself and to, I think I would probably go along the same route. I believe that the gun control should be controlled. It shouldn't be any to start with. It doesn't work. It's a poor theory. It's an excuse. It takes everybody's eye off the ball, the real problems that they have. The city of Chicago, for instance, they have a 50% dropout rate in their schools. Some of their neighborhoods have a 90% unemployment rate. The violence is so high in those neighborhoods where the guns are already banned that kids have no expectation they're going to live to adulthood. But when the politicians, instead of trying to solve those problems, or because the problems are insurmountable in one political term, they turn to gun control and they say guns are bad and guns are bad and guns are bad. And they've convinced everybody that it's the gun, an inanimate object, that's the real problem. And it's not the real problem. The real problem is that these kids have no expectation they're going to live to be adults. They don't have an expectation that they'll be able to find a job and buy a home and raise a family and live the American dream when they grow up, because there is no jobs. So there's no gold ring for them to grasp, to run out there to try and get a high school education at least, so they have the basic reading and math skills to get a job. And the employers can't come into those neighborhoods because they don't have an expectation that they're going to be able to find qualified people to work for them. And the whole thing, my theory on this thing is that the politicians just keep blaming the gun because they can't fix the other things in an expeditious manner, so they just keep blaming the gun, blame the gun, blame the gun, and pretty soon it becomes an emotional issue because people have been told their whole life the guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad, and you can't make a logical argument against it with those people. They turn a switch off in their brain, and they're not even interested in spending a half a second of their thinking time to try and get behind whether or not it really makes sense or not.
Well, and the problem is spreading. I mean, there are historically relatively safe districts in Chicago, like the Magnificent Mile and Lincoln Park, that are no longer particularly safe. I mean, we're seeing crimes being committed right in the Mag Mile.
Flash mobs.
I mean, how do we turn a tide when they're focusing on guns? And the guns are I would say, and I don't have numbers, but I would say the number of crimes committed with a legally possessed firearm are relatively small. I mean, we know there's some, certainly. But,
I agree.
But relatively speaking, it's small. So it's a canard.
It is. It's a distraction.
Look, the bigger issue, I think, in the long-term goal of this is a Second Amendment, a constitutional right for Americans, and every other state in our nation so far has recognized this. Illinois is one of the last. But, Illinois is not beyond using political manipulation and looking at the shiny ball on the other side to utilize their political stress and power instead of rationing and realizing that gun rights are not the issue. This is about work. This is about a social issue. This is about an education issue that has to be resolved. And it's easier to do that than it is to fix the problems, I think.
You're listening to On Target Radio. We're taking calls at 312-642-5600. Also go to our Facebook page, On Target Radio. Ask a question, and we'll answer it on the air. Glenn, you're from down in Bourbonnais, that area. Do you find that most people down there, in your opinion, do they own firearms? Is there a big issue down there like there's in Chicago?
Well, look, there's enormous popularity with firearm use, and in the sporting aspect as well as the hunting and the collectors. Kankakee County has a fairgrounds, and we utilize that probably once a month during the summer and fall for a great, well-attended gun show. And we don't see, despite what some of the politicians in power right now would make you think, all of these guns and all of these, pro Second Amendment people, there's nobody shooting each other at those events. It's puzzling sometimes that it doesn't happen. So, proof positive that there are rational people out there that use firearms as a sport, as a competitive sport. And, coming from my lineage, 11 years old, and, shoot my first competition in a .22. I've never had the inclination to have to use that in an undesirable way, or it's just blasphemy to think that our state can still be stuck in that mire, that guns are the issue.
Somebody sent me something in email that I thought was kind of funny, but it's a well-taken point, and it said, if gun owners were as bad as anti-gun owners thought they were, there would be a heck of a lot less anti-gun owners walking around today. Which brings up an interesting question. We got about 2.5 minutes here, but Chicago now you can own a loaded firearm in your home for personal protection. And quite frankly, when that first was passed, I thought that was going to be my retirement program for Safer USA. And for a brief period of time, we got a lot of people. We filled some classes, and then it really dropped off. And what I'm finding is there are a lot of gun owners in Chicago, but they're not doing it. Yeah,
there's a great deal of mistrust with the city of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department, and they've made they've made the bar so high for somebody to register a firearm in the city. They have to take a 5-hour class. There's a very limited number of people who are authorized by the state to teach that class. And they have to have a set of fingerprints taken for each firearm they own. So if they own more than one firearm, they can't go to the local law enforcement agency and get one set of fingerprints taken. They have to have one set of fingerprints taken and submitted for each firearm that they register. And there's a price tag on every firearm. There's a renewal on every firearm. You have to take a 5-hour class. You have to spend an hour in a shooting range. And then the city of Chicago banned shooting ranges in the city. And so we sued them with Ezel versus Chicago, and we followed that We won the case in the appellate court. It was remanded back to the district court, and it's still in litigation. They've rewritten their ordinance to allow shooting ranges, but the zoning and such is such a predicament that I don't think anyone could possibly operate a shooting range in a city at this point still.
But you can own multiple firearms, but you can only own one that's loaded for personal protection.
That's correct.
That's
one per person in the household.
Right. That's like saying you can own multiple cars but only put gas in one tank.
Yeah, I mean, there's no logic to that.
No.
Originally they wanted one firearm in a home, and we discussed it with the city, and this was following McDonald versus Chicago, where we overturned the Chicago handgun ban, incorporated a Second Amendment through the 14th Amendment to all of the states, not just Illinois, and they wanted to have just one firearm in the house. But then if you have a man or a woman, they may not be ergonomically the same, and so that they can't both handle maybe the same firearm. So
it's all about choice and the screwy gun laws. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with Vic Quilici, and we'll talk about other gun laws. You're listening to On Target Radio.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the PropertyTax.com Traffic Center.
Good evening, I'm Laura Vaughn. Your Edens Expressway all clear. 19 minutes in either direction between Lake Cook and the Kennedy Junction. Inbound Kennedy still busy from Cumberland to Canfield. 22 from O'Hare, 10 from the junction. It's really not that bad at all. 10 to the junction on the outbound side, 20 to O'Hare. 2-minute delay. See? Ike moving well, 29 minutes between Thorndale and the old post office. Stevenson, 34 minutes in either direction between 355 and Lakeshore Drive. Inbound Dan Ryan, bunch of roadwork scheduled from 75th to 67th and again at 31st Street. None of it causing a delay. All your delays right downtown, right around that Roosevelt curve to the Circle Interchange. A 16-minute trip. Outbound, 15 minutes. Bellevue, Jackson, and Columbus are still closed in Grant Park because of the Chicago Marathon until 6 tomorrow morning. Clearing overnight with a low 39. It's 45 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
This is the plan.
The Steve Cochran Show.
What's next door? Wisconsin. What's next door? Iowa. 2 swing states. Got some free time? Get in the car, drive over the border, go to a tavern, have a couple of beers, strike up a conversation with a local, and when you find somebody, when you're talking about politics, that says they're still supporting President Obama, politely and firmly ask them why.
Steve Cochran, weekdays at 5, right after Michael Medved on AM 560 WIND.
Attention firearm owners or those considering exercising your Second Amendment rights. I want to tell you about Illinois Gun Works. From void services and new firearm purchases to gunsmith services and an indoor shooting range, Don and his staff will assist you without attitude or pressure. Need training? Illinois Gun Works' popular Illinois Responsible Firearm Owners class teaches you the regulations to legally defend yourself, own, and transport your firearm. There's a required class for a Chicago firearm permit and popular new shooter familiarization class, including one for women. Now, I took this class and urge you to reserve your spot fast for this fun class. Illinois Gun Works offers a wide selection of training and certification classes, from security work to those just considering ownership, even special group classes. Illinois Gun Works, Chicagoland's full-service firearm headquarters, is located on Grand Avenue, just a block west of Harlem in Elmwood Park. Call 708-452-0040 or visit IllinoisGunWorks.com. That's 708-452-0040.
The following is a free offer from Rosetta Stone.
Anyone that I talk to about learning a language, I tell them there's just no other way to do it than Rosetta Stone.
I took Spanish in high school, and it was a miserable failure. 20 years later, I saw the Rosetta Stone program, and it was pretty fun.
You are seeing the language, you are writing the language, you are speaking it.
Real users agree. Rosetta Stone is the fastest way to learn a language, guaranteed. And to prove it, we want you to be a part of our biggest language learning event in history. Because in 2012, we want to help 3 million people learn a new language. That's why we're going to give you an absolutely free demo of our language immersion technology. To participate in this nationwide event, call 1-800-400-0690.
Rosetta Stone is, in my opinion, the ultimate method, the only method there is to learn a language.
For your free demo, call 1-800-400-0690. That's 1-800-400-0690.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, Call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Our guests in the studio this evening are Don Moran, president of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and good friend Glenn Nixon. Not that Don's not a good friend, don't get me wrong, but Glenn Nixon, who's a sergeant with Bourbonnais PD and is running for state rep in the 79th District. Don, I have a question. It comes in all the time. I keep getting this, we're going to lose all our gun rights because the president is going to sign this, that UN arms treaty thing that's going to ban all small weapons. What's the story with that?
Well, at the Gun Rights Policy Conference last weekend, hosted by the Second Amendment Foundation, a Citizens Committee to Keep and Bear Arms down in Orlando, they had a speaker that spoke on this issue. And for the time being, I don't think that's the most imminent threat that we have against firearm ownership or firearms rights in the United States. It doesn't look like they could muster enough votes in the Senate to ratify such a treaty. So for us here in Illinois, we're going to concentrate on the things we need to do to get concealed carry passed in Illinois. I sat on this Illinois Public Awareness Firearms Task Force that was started by a resolution in the Illinois House last year. And we had 3 meetings, and we had experts come in and testify. And the end result of this thing, we were to produce a report that was going to go to the Illinois House to tell them what the effect would be if we were to pass concealed carry in Illinois. And essentially, there's, at best, it would lower crime. At worst, nothing happens. It stays neutral.
And that's essentially how it always works out.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we have waiting for us on the line Vic Quilici, who's general counsel for the ISRA.
Hello, Dave.
How are you doing, Vic?
Well, better. Let's put it that way.
We're sorry you couldn't make it in, but I hope you're feeling better.
I appreciate that.
We'd like to chat a little bit about gun laws, just gun laws in general. You probably want to give a little disclaimer here because being an attorney, there's some things you can say, right?
Right. I believe, in our talks, I had indicated to you that, as I do with ISRA when I have published articles in the Shooter or on the website, and often I actually summarize cases, we always put the caveat out there that although I am an attorney, I'm not necessarily giving legal advice, giving an opinion, and we ask those who are interested in the particular issue or question that's posed to check with their own counsel. And this way I comply also with the Code of Ethics, the state of Illinois, promulgated by our state Supreme Court, and of course by our ARDC, which is the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission. Unless you've got an attorney-client relationship, you should not be giving.
Spoken like a lawyer. Thank you, Vic.
I think what he said was, if you have a question, a legal question that is going to concern anything that you have, that you're going to ask a question about tonight, it's best that you consult your own attorney.
There you go.
Don't take Vic's word for it.
And now there was half the segment with the caveat. So there are several questions, though, Vic, that really do keep coming up over and over again. And it'd be interesting. One of them is there's someone running around the state, and I won't mention names on this, but there's someone who's saying that the Diggins case, which is the one where the Illinois Supreme Court essentially said you can have a firearm an unloaded firearm in your center council. He's going around telling people that a fanny pack meets the definition of a case, and so you can carry a gun in a fanny pack.
Okay, I'm very familiar with that. Of course, you do know that I wrote an amicus brief on behalf of ISRA in that case. And looking at the Diggins case, the question is a de facto answer to say that it would, in fact, say that concealed carry with a fanny pack is legal, and the answer would be an unequivocal no. And there's nothing in Diggins that I recall in the form of even dicta that would lead one to believe that the case is defined by the pertinent Illinois statute by our state Supreme Court actually would allow one to conceal a loaded firearm in the fanny pack. What happened shortly after the decision, I know there was an article written in the ISRA Shooter. There was one on the website. And we found this out. And then I immediately wrote an article indicating that there is information out there that people should be wary of and be on their guard, because they can very easily be arrested, because there is nothing that Diggins stated in the way of allowing a fanny pack to be carried with a firearm in it. They simply addressed the situation relating to the center console, and that had specific facts pertaining to it. They referenced some other cases, and actually thereafter, People v. Holmes came out, which is another case. That's People versus Holmes, Holmes. And that case actually said that an armrest in the rear portion of the vehicle is also a case. But those cases, they're limited to that. And there is not even any dicta that I would say that you can take and say, well, maybe we should indicate that would also apply to fanny packs.
Vic Don, when I was a kid, there used to be these public service announcements on television that would say they were about defensive driving and right-of-way, and one of the things that they used to say was, you might be right, but don't be dead right. In other words, you're a stop sign, and there's a stop sign for the other direction. A semi's coming along. Just because you have the right-of-way to pull out in front of that semi doesn't mean it's really a good idea. Carrying an unloaded firearm in a fanny pack or someplace else in your vehicle where it's accessible that hasn't been defined yet by a court decision, you're taking a chance that you could be arrested, prosecuted. You might win in the end, but you might also spend some time in jail and a lot of money, right?
Question about it. And also in Diggins, they cited the Moran case, and that's a case that came out of the 3rd District, and they had actually indicated that a case would have to be portable. And in that instance, Diggins indicated that the Cameron case analysis was incorrect, and therefore it would not apply in the Diggins case. And also, there might be a little dicta in that case where they indicated that a glove compartment could possibly be considered a case. And that now hasn't been tested yet, but that's the next one that we feel will be.
Okay, you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560, WIND. We're talking with Vic Quilici about gun laws. One other quick question. We just have about 2 minutes left in this segment, but the situation has been brought up a couple of times in the seminar, our home protection and concealed carry seminar that Tim and I teach. If you have a firearm in a home and it's loaded and it's there for personal protection and it's owned by, let's say, the husband, he has a FOID card, he goes out of town, the wife does not have a FOID card, but the gun is still accessible, does that put her in illegal possession of a firearm?
I think what that question entails is looking at it from a common sense standpoint. There actually isn't anything in the statute that covers that particular scenario. But let's look at it this way. If you have someone at home and there's a situation that arises and there may be a possibility of serious harm or even death to that party, the wife or children, I don't think there's any question about what she would or could do. It would appear that the right thing would be to defend, and I don't think there would be any serious repercussion relating to the fact that she, in fact, handled a firearm within the house.
Well, but I bet you Glenn has a different take, because I know when I was working as an auxiliary deputy, I mean, we would have probably effected an arrest.
Well, here, Vic, this is Glenn. I totally appreciate your perspective. The reality and the rationality of this whole situation is Illinois needs to catch itself up. And when we start talking about the FOID card and all the regulations that come in with Illinois, we need to really examine our motives. And the political change that needs to happen is obvious. We need to recognize that Second Amendment foundational right.
Dave?
I think that's go ahead, Don.
If you got 30 seconds on this. There was a bill introduced a couple years ago. It was endorsed by the Illinois State Police about constructive transfer of firearms.
Okay, we'll get back to that in just a moment. You're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND. And our guests in the studio are Don Moran and Glenn Nixon. And Vic, can you stick on for a few more minutes?
I'm going to stay on for sure.
Okay, thank you. And we will be right back after these messages.
The battle lines are drawn. Both sides are firing. The battle to win you over to their side has never been waged more fiercely. This time, more than ever, every single vote counts. This radio station wants you to be the difference. That's why we have created a website to make sure you are registered to vote and to help you get your friends registered. VoteTheChange.com. Go there now and join this fight. VoteTheChange.com. This time, you are the answer. AM 560, WIND.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. President Obama is spending his Sunday in California drumming up cash for his campaign coffers at a Los Angeles fundraising concert tonight.
Everything we fought for in 2008 is on the line here in 2012. And I need your help to finish what we started.
Bon Jovi, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Stevie Wonder among the performers. Earlier today, GOP challenger Mitt Romney spoke at a rally in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
I will do what it takes to restore a strong and vibrant economy that can care for our families and can care for a military second to none. And I will keep our military so strong, no one would ever think of testing it.
The head of the Border Patrol Agents Union says the agent killed last week in southern Arizona apparently opened fire on 2 fellow agents, thinking they were armed as smugglers, and then he was killed when they returned fire. Fox News. We report, you decide.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the PropertyTax.com Traffic Center.
Good evening. I'm Laura Vaughn, and your expressways and tollways are moving well everywhere except for the Tri-State Tollway and the inbound Dan Ryan. Tri-State Tollway probably the worst place to be. Northbound jam from 75th Street to the Hinsdale Oasis. There's lots of long-term roadwork going on the Tri-State Tollway, but at Cermak, roadwork set up in 2 right lanes. That started at 9 o'clock. On your inbound Dan Ryan, there's some minor delays from Roosevelt Road to the Circle Interchange, and it's a 16-minute trip. There's roadwork there, but the roadwork doesn't seem to be causing a problem. Left local lane scheduled to be blocked from 75th to 67th, and the right express lane and left local lane from 31st Street to the Chinatown feeder. Belbo, Jackson, and Columbus are still closed in Grant Park because of the Chicago Marathon. They'll reopen tomorrow morning. Clearing overnight with a low of 39. It's 45 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
Chuck's Gun Shop proudly serves Riverdale and the surrounding communities. Conveniently located near the 142nd Street exit of the Bishop Ford Expressway, Chuck's Gun Shop is staffed by friendly, skilled professionals who will help guide a first-time shooter and assist you in obtaining a State of Illinois firearm owner's identification card. Chuck offers a full line of new handguns, rifles, shotguns, knives, and accessories. Chuck's also buys, sells, and trades used firearms and has a gunsmith on location that will provide expert care for your favorite firearm. Chuck's features a 6-lane indoor shooting range. Bring your own firearm or rent one from their wide assortment. If you live in Chicago, Chuck's Gun Shop offers the required Chicago Firearms Permit course. Chuck's Gun Shop is open Monday through Saturday and located at 14310 Indiana Avenue in Riverdale. Visit their website, chucksgunshop.net, or call 708-849-4455. That's 708-849-4455. Chuck's Gun Shop, serving Riverdale and surrounding communities.
I'm David Lombardo, president of Safer USA, Chicagoland's most popular firearm training school. We continue to offer our popular home protection and concealed carry seminar every month. This 8-hour seminar covers everything you need to know to safely and legally use a firearm for both concealed carry and home invasion, and qualifies you for Florida and Utah concealed carry permits good in about 30 states. Be sure to call and ask how we can help you raise funds for your organization or provide a guest speaker. We're also offering the NRA Basic Pistol Course and our Tactical Pistol 1 and 2. As always, I offer private one-on-one instruction for Basic Pistol, Chicago Firearm Certification, and Basic Home Defense. For further information, please call 877-954-3030 or go to saferusa.com. Safer USA, choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching to own it responsibly is ours.
That's 877-954-3030 or saferusa.com.
Hello?
Hi, is this Steve Bostic, president of Right Size Smoothies?
Yes, are you calling about the free 2-week trial?
Well, so I already got the free trial. In fact, I've lost a ton of weight with your smoothies.
Wow, that's great news.
But now I have a problem I never thought I'd have. I can't stop losing weight, but I don't want to stop drinking your smoothies. I love them.
Well, here's one thing you can do. Only drink one smoothie a day. That way you won't cut as many calories. And if you ever need to lose weight again, you can always drink more smoothies.
With delicious right-size smoothies, you'll love losing weight. So to get you started, we're offering anyone who calls today a free 2-week trial of our powerful weight loss smoothies. You can even get free shipping. Call 1-800-600-9532. Try right-size smoothies free for 2 full weeks, and we'll also send you our best-selling blender bottle absolutely free. Call 1-800-600-9532. Ask how you can even get free shipping. That's 1-800-600-9532. 1-800-600-9532.
We now return to On Target on AM 560 WIND. If you have a question or opinion, the studio line is 312-642-5600. Now, here's your host, firearm expert and educator, David Lombardo.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. We have a question coming over Facebook from Mike Teska. When is the bill for concealed carry going to be called for a vote again? Do you know, Don?
It could come up in veto session, or it could come up in a lame duck session, but I can't predict that. If it happens, we'll call it if we think we've got the votes.
How far are we? Do you know?
We're close, very close.
Yeah, in May of 2011, that came very, very close with the help of Representative Brandon Phelps. He was a champion for that bill, did a great job with it, and it made it to the floor, had some great discussion, but once again we saw, the Chicago politics took over.
It's an interesting thing that the Speaker said the parliamentarian ruled that we needed a 2/3 majority because the bill had, 3/5 majority because it had a overrides local home rule. There's a preemption portion of the bill. And so he ruled that we had to have 3/5 majority in order to pass it to override home rule. But the gambling bill passed in Illinois, and I believe there was 11 amendments to it, that every one of which said that it was overrides home rule. And when that thing originally passed the House and the Senate, it passed with simple majorities in both houses.
Right. There's no politics involved in that, though, right?
No. Seems to be a little double standard.
Yeah. Vic, are you still on the line? Well, Vic is not still on the line.
I'm still on the line.
Oh, Vic is still on the line. We have a question. What is the Castle Doctrine? You have about 3 minutes here, but what is the Castle Doctrine, and does it apply in Illinois?
Okay, the Castle Doctrine, that's an antiquated American doctrine, goes back many, many years, back to the 1700s. I guess one of the biggest proponents of it was one of the scholars, Koch, who wrote on it. And it basically means that it's the defense of the home or of the habitat. And that has not been really adopted, not only in Illinois, but in most cases throughout the country. If we go all the way back to the days of Morton Grove, we argued the Castle Doctrine because in Georgia at that time they had a case called Stanley versus Georgia, and they indicated that even pornographic material or material that was banned could be kept by someone within their home, and that was under the Castle Doctrine. But, of course, our court would not accept that, just as they didn't accept our arguments on the Second Amendment.
So, essentially, I mean, you hear people constantly talking about Castle Doctrine. It's really not applicable in Illinois?
I would say no, because a true Castle Doctrine is one, if you were going to take the retreat versus the no retreat rule, and for a very long time we have basically been a retreat or close to it. We're not a no retreat state. And for the most part, you have to look at the use of force in our statutory provisions, and it's expressly stated. And I think last week when you had Ed Ronkowski on it, question was asked, and he also went over that, indicating the type of force that can be used, and you've got to be careful about it, because people can use excessive force, notwithstanding the fact that we have statutory provisions that allow you to defend your person and your property, but it could put you in jail.
Okay. We have a caller. John from Lake County wants to know about state legislation regarding the military reenactors. John, are you there?
Sure. Hi, is this Dave?
Yes, it is. You're on Target Radio.
Oh, great. How you doing tonight, Dave?
We're doing good. You have about a minute and a half, John, so you got to spill the beans quick.
Sure, yeah. I was just kind of curious about this 97-0465 Public Act that looks like it's going to go into effect January 1st, 2013. I'm not a lawyer, but the way I read it is that looks like they kind of struck the language about the possession of a short-barreled rifle and having to be a part of a military reenactment and having a vintage rifle. And now it looks like that because they struck that your average citizen, without the need to be a military reenactor, can possess a short-barrel rifle as a curio and relic. I was just trying to see if anyone could give me some further explanation about that.
Okay, John, thanks for calling in. We'll get you an answer right now.
John, Don, President of the ISRA. I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice, but here's the skinny. If you have a curio and relics license and you register that firearm as a with the ATF, in other words, you go through the background investigation, fingerprinting, the whole works. Its law last year was that you had to be a member of a nationally recognized reenactors organization and blah, blah, blah. That part of the law has been struck. You no longer have to have that. You just have to have a curio and relics license, go through the process with the ATF for registering the firearm, paying a $200 transfer tax. And as of January 1st, that's going to be the law in Illinois.
Okay, thanks for calling in, John. Right now, is it legal to have a magazine, and we only have a few seconds, but is it legal to have a magazine next to a gun in the glove compartment as long as it's not in? You got like 10 seconds.
Yes.
You might be right, but don't be dead right.
So
okay.
again, it's you're hoping you get Glenn Nixon.
It was mentioned. I think if Vic's still on the line, I think it was mentioned in the Holmes decision, but that'd be where to look.
Yeah. Okay. We're out of time. We're going to be right back after these messages.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the PropertyTax.com Traffic Center.
Good evening. I'm Laura Vaughn, and your Edens is all clear. Kennedy moving well, 20 in and out of downtown from O'Hare. Ike, a good trip. Stevenson, 34 minutes between 355 and Lakeshore Drive, and that's as fast as it goes. Inbound Dan Ryan, just a little busy from Roosevelt to the Circle Interchange, 16 minutes. Outbound, a 15-minute trip. Tri-State Tollway northbound is jammed from the mile-long bridge to before Ogden, a 13-minute delay. There's some extra road work set up there right around Cermak in the two right lanes. And there's plenty of other road work on the Tri-State Tollway in both directions, long-term projects. On the near-southwest side of Chicago in the South Lawndale neighborhood, there's a house fire at 26th and Karlov. That's a few blocks west of Pulaski on 26th. Clearing overnight with a low of 39. It's 45 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
For 35 years, Pelcher's Shooters Supply has served the Lansing area. Pelcher's offers new and used firearm sales, appraisals, and gunsmithing service. Pelcher's new spacious showroom has hundreds of major brand firearms and supplies, and PelcherGuns.com features daily specials. Pelcher's Shooter's Supply on the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Street in downtown Lansing. Online at PelcherGuns.com or call 708-474-0662.
Have you ever seen the $100 coin? The largest coin in U.S. history? Of course not, because this magnificent design was lost for over a century before it could be released to the public. But in a startling announcement, the New York Mint has finally brought this national treasure to life. They are releasing a limited quantity of $100 silver unions to the public. And to celebrate, a free collector's DVD is available when you call 1-800-500-6467. The $100 silver union was first proposed in 1876 by George T. Morgan, designer of the Morgan silver dollar. But this treasure was lost forever until its design was discovered deep within the Smithsonian vaults. This legendary, never-before-seen piece of American coin history is available to own on a first-come, first-served basis. Call now to receive a free collector's DVD and the full story of the Morgan Silver Union. The world has been waiting for these beautiful treasures for over 100 years. Claim yours by calling 1-800-500-6467. 1-800-500-6467.
Check it out, it's the Terminator. Hey, when'd you get back, huh?
Did
Did you have to shoot anyone?
Why are you so distant? Are you not happy to see me?
So what's the deal? You gonna get a job now or what?
Why are you being so jumpy? Put all that stuff behind you, okay?
No one knows what it's like to come back from Iraq or Afghanistan unless they were there. Join other veterans at communityofveterans.org because we know where you're coming from. Brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And now we're back with more On Target Radio. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport for personal protection and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. That's 815-635-3198. 3198, the Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you. And now, it's time for Tim's Tip of the Week.
All righty. I wait all week for this.
I don't, but that's fine.
How should you store that stock of ammunition you just got on sale at the great price? Ammunition will keep for many years if it is stored in the right conditions. Remember, humidity is the enemy. It's all right to put it in the trunk of your car on the way to your favorite shooting facility, but you wouldn't want to keep it there for a long period of time. The garage or an old damp basement are just as bad. Too much humidity. Some surplus military ammo is packed in a can you actually have to use a type of can opener to get into. This military ammo is sealed into these cans using a process that removes all of the humidity from inside as it is sealed. For example, some of the 5.56 millimeter ammunition our troops used during the first Gulf War, 1990 to 1991, was actually manufactured in 1967. Most of us don't have the ability to seal our unused ammo in a metal can, so our best defense is to just keep it out of any place that this or where it could become damp. Keep it in the house where it is nice and dry, and it should last you for several years. Buying a surplus ammo can from a gun show or a similar plastic ammo can that has a gasket between the can and the lid also works. Load one with your ammo, throw in 1 to 2 ounces of desiccant packs, and lock the lid. If you can't buy desiccant drying packets locally, there are hundreds of places online, if not thousands. Also remember, the next time you buy new ammo, use the older stuff you have first. Rotate the older stock to the front just like they do in the grocery store. When you do open a box that you've had for a long time, take a close look at it. Are there brown, green, or powdery spots on the cases? If you see anything like this, it should be disposed of. During last week's show, we learned that most local gun shops will take and dispose this old ammo for you. This has been your Tip of the Week, sponsored by the Illinois State Rifle Association.
Thank you, Tim. It's always a pithy moment.
Pithy?
Pithy. It is indeed.
Is that a bad word?
No, we can say that.
Oh.
You can say pithy.
Pithy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're listening to On Target Radio. It's AM 560 WIND. This is a professional show, okay? You have to be serious.
Don't you get paid when you do professional shows?
Okay, back to Don and Glenn. Our guest this evening in the studio, thanks a lot.
That was a great question, right. Tim. Very, very good question.
They're stacking the cards against me right from the beginning. All right. Vic, are you still on board?
Fine, I'm still on. Yes.
You're still on board. Okay. I think at this point, I hear, and I know Tim would back this up. Right, Tim?
Maybe.
There you go. We hear people in the seminar all the time saying, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway, I would rather have my day in court. And I find that a frightening concept, that people think that that's a really smart thing to do.
Right.
I have some advice for them. Don't do it on a Friday afternoon on a holiday weekend.
There you go. Because even when they had bond court.
There you go. Bond court won't be till Tuesday.
I keep telling them that what you're going to get is a judge who just had an argument with his or her spouse, a prosecutor who's up for re-election, a defense attorney who probably is third rate, and 12 people who couldn't get out of jury duty. Your day in court is not a smart move, in my opinion.
Right. Look, most gun owners are very, very rational, reasonable people that want to use their firearms for sport or for protection. And realistically, nobody wants to go to your class and go out and try and find body count. That's not what they're going to your class for. They're finding out the rules and regulations, and that's what gun owners need to focus on. That's what we all need to focus on with legislation also.
Is it reasonable to say that if you adopt the philosophy of just doing the right thing, I mean, is that not generally, as far as law goes, a reasonable thing? Or is that a little vague, Don? You're looking at me like I just fell off the moon.
Well, we had a discussion before the show about my theory about gun control and why politicians use it, and that runs contrary to that. It's not about banning guns or taking guns out of the hand of criminals. It's a excuse. It's a sideshow. It's something to take everybody's eye off the ball, the real problems that are going on in their society, and the things that they can't fix in one political term. And so they keep throwing out there that it's the gun that's bad, it's the gun that's bad, it's the gun that's bad. And it's not. The gun is an inanimate object. It doesn't do anything. It's the people and the circumstances that they're in that's what causes the problems.
And in Chicago, you can see that they can't control what's happening in the areas where they have the gangbangers and they have those drive-by shootings constantly. They can't put it under control. They can't get a handle on it. So therefore, every chance they can, they put it on the firearm. It's the problem with the guns, or it's the problem of the proliferation of so many out there, and what happens is that forget that it takes an individual to pull that trigger.
Well, it comes back to that politician again. That guy's going to keep saying that because if he didn't say that, he's been telling everybody, the city of Chicago, for instance, has been telling everybody since 1982 that guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad. Now, if somebody was to look at it and say, you know what, this really doesn't make any sense, it doesn't lower crime, it doesn't do anything, it has no effect on the criminals themselves, the people of Chicago think that guns are bad because they've been told for 3 generations that guns are bad. If the politician was to take that out of their repertoire, all of a sudden they're going to think the politician's crazy because he's not talking about it.
Well, I think the thing that is most dismaying is out of the 10 amendments to the Constitution, this is the only one that every state, municipality, and county can make up their own rules. And that kills me. We're going to be back right after these messages and wrap the show up. You're listening to On Target Radio.
Chuck's Gun Shop proudly serves Riverdale and the surrounding communities. Conveniently located near the 142nd Street exit of the Bishop Ford Expressway, Chuck's Gun Shop is staffed by friendly, skilled professionals who will help guide a first-time shooter and assist you in obtaining a State of Illinois firearm owner's identification card. Chuck offers a full line of new handguns, rifles, shotguns, knives, and accessories. Chuck's also buys, sells, and trades used firearms and has a gunsmith on location that will provide expert care for your favorite firearm. Chuck's features a 6-lane indoor shooting range. Bring your own firearm or rent one from their wide assortment. If you live in Chicago, Chuck's Gun Shop offers the required Chicago Firearms Permit course. Chuck's Gun Shop is open Monday through Saturday and located at 14310 Indiana Avenue in Riverdale. Visit their website, chucksgunshop.net, or call 708-849-4455. That's 708-849-4455. Chuck's Gun Shop, serving Riverdale and surrounding communities.
We take a lot of things every day to improve our health. Vitamins, supplements for our joints, heart, and more. But what if there were a pill that could improve your mood and help you feel happier? Now there is. It's called Lumiday. If you worry too much, feel anxious, weak, or exhausted, Lumiday can help you feel more relaxed, confident, and positive. And right now, we'll rush you a complimentary 2-week sample of Lumiday. To claim yours, just call 1-800-500-0055. Lumiday offers a unique, more complete combination of all natural ingredients that have been clinically proven effective in promoting a more positive mood. Lumiday has helped thousands of people enjoy better days and is now the #1 selling mood enhancement supplement at GNC. Isn't it time you felt happier, more relaxed, and more positive? Then call now for your 2-week sample of Lumiday. Lumiday is available at GNC, but remember, you can only get your complimentary 2-week sample by calling now. 1-800-500-0055. That's 1-800-500-0055.
You're listening to On Target on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Now, I have some of the most verbose people as guests this evening. So I'm telling you right now, you have a limited amount of time on this one, okay? Because this is where we leave forever. But we know, and I don't mean to get scientific here, but the second law of thermodynamics says that things don't get tighter, they get looser. Okay, that when you look at the whole timeline, things don't come together, they go farther apart. Is there any hope at all, realistically, that someday all of this nonsense would go away and we would have a federal law that controls firearms and all this other stuff is going to end?
I believe that's called the Reciprocity Act,
which has not gone anywhere.
And it's stalled, just like a balanced budget amendment, and just that's what that's what it comes down to.
I think when we were at this U.S. Supreme Court for McDonald versus Chicago, the morning that we walked into that courtroom, the first thing that happened was there was a decision read on the Fourth Amendment case. And the Fourth Amendment has about 150 years of jurisprudence where they've looked at the Fourth Amendment, tried to decide what was reasonable, what wasn't reasonable. The Second Amendment hasn't had that look. Until Heller, there wasn't any cases out there to look back to see what that decision was. So it's going to take some time and some litigation to figure out where the line is at, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable. And I know we're going to have a lot of people are going to call in and are going to say there is no reasonable. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. But there is no enumerated right in the Constitution that doesn't have some sort of restrictions that have been put in place on it by the courts. And
but Don, I mean, I understand that. You can't yell fire in a theater. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody understands that. We're not talking about some reasonable limits. We're talking about literally a small community can pass an ordinance. Why, if they can do that, why can they not do the same thing with the First Amendment? Why can they not say the same thing?
We wouldn't be having the same argument with this much stall and delay if we were talking about our First Amendment.
Well, and that's it. That's exactly right.
Last year, the Illinois State Rifle Association held a legal symposium at John Marshall Law School where we introduced attorneys that specialize in the U.S. Code Section 1983 to attorneys that specialize in Second Amendment cases. And at some point, it's going to come down to when somebody writes an ordinance, it's overturned by a court, and then they go back and rewrite that ordinance in such a way that you have to do the whole thing all over again through the courts, that person, whoever wrote the ordinance, the people who voted in favor of it, have to be held personally liable for it.
I agree.
We're pushing hard on that.
Vic, we got to go. We got to go, buddy. We're on our way out. I want to thank ISRA President Don Moran and Vic. Even though I cut you off, I apologize. But Vic, the ISRA General Counsel, and Glenn Nixon, running for State Representative, 79th District. Thanks,
Don Moran, Will County Board, District 3.
There you go. Thanks to Robin Zeeland, our call screener, George Hoffman on the board. We'd like to thank our sponsors. Please patronize our sponsors. Illinois Gun Works, Chuck's Gun Shop, Pelcher Shooter Supply, Illinois State Rifle Association, and our website developer, 31 Moons. And next week, we will have Masad Ayub, Jeff Chudwin, Jeff Tomzek, and Ed Pecka talking about the law and lethal force.
Wow. Great staff there.
It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, great show. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Vic. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
And we're still here. Okay, the clock counted down, and I'm still here, aren't I, George?
You know, Dave, I'd like to say one thing here.
Yes.
We've had a couple people ask about if they inherited a firearm, how long they had to get their FOID card. Illinois FOID Card Act in Section 65/12 says you have 60 days to get a FOID card after you would inherit a firearm.